dais, may I invite Shri Brajesh Kumar Upadhyay ji, Dr. Alexander Fisher, please, Mr. Prabal, Atul Sopti, sir, Shomik. I think it's nice that we are in Goa, so let's start with a round of applause for all of the eminent panelists and for yourself for making it here. So, good morning, all of you, and welcome to the Goa workshop of role of climate co-benefit methodologies for strengthening climate action by Indian PSCs. We all know that climate change is one of the most pressing and imminent risks to humanity, having far reaching consequences not only to the natural environment, but also to the social, economic, and political stability of the nations. Today, we can see the ill effects of climate change in form of global warming of the planet, leading to cascading effect that threaten the survival and well-being of populations all around us. This has necessitated actions by governments, industries, and global citizens to come together and take steps to combat this challenge to ensure a better planet tomorrow. In this fight against climate change, the Indian public sector has shown great grit and determination. However, to ensure that the public sector has greater avenues to meet its targets of mitigating climate impact, SCOPE and GIZ are organizing regional workshops to create greater awareness about alternative methods or climate co benefit methodologies. And what better venue to discuss this important theme than Goa, the Pearl of the Orient, which is known for its natural beauty and culture? So I, Samriddhi Jain, on behalf of SCOPE, welcome all of you to the Western Region Workshop on the role of climate co-benefit methodologies for strengthening climate action by PSEs. This 1.5 days workshop will deepen your understanding on the ongoing climate initiatives by the PSEs and how the same needs to be measured and made objective. It is indeed encouraging to see the overwhelming response we have received, which is evident in the presence of all of you, representing nearly 22 organizations from across the country. For the concluding session, we are honored to have an eminent panelist with us who will be enlightening our way forward in this endeavor. So, before we formally start, I would request my colleagues to please welcome the guest on the dais with a token of our respect. We welcome Mr. Brajesh Kumar Upadhyay, CMD Goa Shipyard Limited, and Vice Chairman Scope. Thank you, sir. Thank you for making time for us. We also welcome Dr. Alexander Fisher, Director, Indo Climate Support Project, GIZ India. Thank you, Alex, for being here with us. We also welcome our Director General, Shri Atul Sopti ji, for being with us today here, despite of a very hectic schedule. Thank you, sir. We also welcome Mr. Prabal Vikram Singh, Country Director, Oxford Policy Management Group, India and Bangladesh. Thank you, Mr. Prabal, for being with us. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Somik Biswas, who is the lead for our consortium here and who this workshop would not have been possible without him. Thank you, Somik. Before we proceed with the program, I would like to invite Mr. Atul Sopti, Director General Scope, to please render his opening remarks. Sir is a visionary leader, having a versatile professional experience of nearly 4 decades. And before leading Scope as Director General, he was CMD BHEL, a Maharatna public sector enterprise, and is now amongst the 14 regular members of the governing body of ILO, representing the interests of 187 countries. So over to you, sir, for your guidance.
Thank you, Sujit. A very good morning to all of you. Respected Shri Vijesh Kumar Upadhyay ji, a dynamic chairman of Goa Shipyard Limited, Vice Chairman Scope, Dr. Alexander Fisher, Director, Indo-German Climate Project, GAZ India. Mr. Prabal Vikram Singh, Country Director, Oxford Policy Management, India and Bangladesh. Mr. Somik Vishwas, Team Lead Consortium Partners from OPM, Perspectives and CEEW. Senior officials from various public sectors, GAZ and Scope, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned by Smriddhi, we take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this beautiful place of Goa. What better location could have been there to discuss how we can preserve this planet for our future generation? And I must say that this particular event is the schedule of this event is well planned. You know that COP29 is over only 2 days back, and I'm sure most of you would have followed what was the outcome, what was discussed there in the meetings there at Baku, Azerbaijan. Being a part of the governing council of International Labour Organization, I also had the privilege of getting being invited by international organization employers to represent the global employers during the second week of the COP. I could see that on one hand, the developing countries they are talking of common and differentiated responsibilities (CBDRs), and developed nations they are having also various pressures. So there was a robust debate which were taking place during this celebration. Of course, outcome would have been much better, but nevertheless, the discussions which took place in various forums there, besides the party negotiation, etc., one point was very clear that all the business organization they were saying climate change is the most significant risk for the business, and we need to be prepared for that. This was a clear message which was coming. Although many presentations during the many presentations it was told that there are going to be 300 million new green jobs by 2050. But the issue was whether these green jobs are going to be for them who will be getting displaced because of the transition which will be taking place. Another point which was coming again and again, skilling, reskilling, upskilling, training, retraining is going to be the most important for existing organizations. And the kind of these kind of programs, I feel, are very important in that direction also. I also had the privilege of presenting the employer views in various forums on the climate initiative. Human mobility was another important aspect which was talked. Just transition was the most important topic which was being talked. I had multiple meetings with the International Labour Organization representatives, with the various international organization employer members, various country delegates, and one of the most important meetings which I like to mention here, where my friend Weber was also present during the discussion from GAZ. We had the meeting with Dr. Philip Behrens. He is head of the IKI. IKI is the International Climate Initiative Division at German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, better known as BMWK. And I am happy to share that this meeting was very, very important meeting and very fruitful meeting which I could find. Because they are the people who are funding our other projects also, IKI. Few points I like to share with you which we discussed and which would be of definite interest to you. First point was that we will try to have the targeted project for the PSCs and hard projects. Sectors we can decide later on, but we need to have the targeted project for that. Second was the knowledge exchange program. We have a advanced global leadership program. I'll talk about it. We wanted to have a kind of program where Indian public sector executives can go to the Germany, can go to the Europe and visit the different management different institutes as well as industry, and they learn about the climate action on the global. We also talked about the certification programs which can be done along with them, and other last but not the least was the capacity building, especially for the climate finance. You know, the climate finance was the one of the most important point which was talked in the COP29 also. We talked about the battery manufacturing and battery recycling technology transfer also. How can you work it out? We'll take this forward. I'm sure that we have the GAJ team led by Mr. Alex. And definitely jointly we will take all these aspects forward. It takes time. But at least road has been, at least the final pathways have been set that in which direction we will be working. As I mentioned, one of the most important topics which was coming again and again was the just transition. That definitely, especially for the country like India, which is the second largest producer of coal in the world, fifth largest reserves in the coal. Just transition is going to be a very, very important subject. In fact, all of us have to work in that direction that when transition takes place, then how we have to be prepared for that. Displacement of people. This is going to be, there is going to be a lot of turmoil, not only economically, socially, but politically also. In fact, one of the points which was made, of course, informally by Dr. Philip, that when we talk to the people in India, they just don't want to talk about the just transition. But we need to be prepared, and organization like yours need to be prepared for that. Here, in fact, I like to mention another thing. We are trying to, these kind of programs which we are organizing, this is fourth in the series we had in the different regions, and final concluding is today. There are going to be more than 160 executives from various public sectors which have been now exposed to these on the climate action during these four regional workshops. We had a program, Advanced Global Leadership Program, about 2 months back, and where 32 participants from the 15 organizations participated. In fact, from many organizations who were present here, they also participated. This is primarily for the senior leadership we had to prepare them for the board level positions. And we took them to the various places in Europe also, which included ILO, IOE, WTO, Permanent Mission of India, OECD. And one of the visits which was very important, I like to mention here is CBS. Thanks to Alex. Alex went all the way from this place also, addressed them, and a lot of interest was generated among the senior executives of these public sector. Thanks, Alex, for coming here and interacting with them. And we will like to continue this work together. There are, in fact, when I talked about the what do you call our own commitment, NDC commitment of the country, you would be knowing. I'll not touch in detail about that, but I like to mention that more than 20 organizations of such who have committed that they will achieve the net zero by 2047. That is the time when India is targeting to become the Viksit Bharat. You people have to come forward in your organization also and set the target for the net zero. In fact, one of the area which requires very, very high importance is the structured approach for the climate co-benefit methodology, so that we ensure the operational efficiency, compliance with the regulations, accountability, and gain the competitive advantage and long-term sustainability. This is a very important subject, in fact, for which we all of us are assembled here. In fact, our journey, many of you would not have attended our this kind of program, but I like to mention that our journey started in 2019. Scope Standing Conference of Public Enterprises, which is an apex body of the public sector enterprises. We had the collaboration with EIJ in 2019. That was the period when I joined the scope at that point of time. Because there was awareness was quite, less among the public sector also. There are few organizations who were conscious of it. In fact, we are not taking the things very seriously. Let's be very honest on that. I'll take my own example. She mentioned that I was with BHEL. I took over as director power of BHEL in 2013. In 2013, when I became the director power, 80% of the business was coming from the power sector, coal-based power business. And that point of time, when we started talking in 2014, when the new government came under the Honorable Prime Minister, then we started talking of higher targets, higher NDCs. I myself at that level used to say, भाई ये possible नहीं हो पाएगा. 12-13 रुपए कॉस्ट करता है, मैक्सिमम 10 रुपए पे आएगा. ये सोलर की जो है प्राइस है, यूनिट प्राइस 3 रुपए को कहाँ मैच करा पाएंगे. That was the time. That was the mindset of people like me who were sitting at the higher pedestal also, running the country's business. 80% of the power plants were installed by yourself. But see how the change has occurred. Mindset has changed. World is pushing, government is pushing, individual organizations are pushing. That's why we all of us have somebody here talking about that. Change has to come. And change is coming. And I'm thankful to GAZ that shook hands and definitely we collaborated and we worked on a various aspects, training need assessment, creating the awareness, then these kind of workshops, and so many studies were conducted. I'll urge all of you to go through our website. There are two very important studies which have been done. One was on the training need assessment (TNA), and another was the various technology which have been being used by various public sector enterprises for the climate action. And now this through workshop, we are trying to talk about the co-benefit methodology. Let me tell you very frankly, when we talk there in COP also or any other event also international, this climate co-benefit approach here, in fact, it is not being given that kind of importance because everybody used to say that this is a kind of social responsibility. भाई आपको जो अगर जो है पेड़ लगाने हैं, ग्रीन कवर करना है, तो ठीक है. You remember that under CSR, when CSR didn't come as a company act in our own public sector, we used to do a lot of work in that particular area. But time has come to quantify that. Time has come to measure that. So this is very, very important that we learn the techniques, we apply it in our own organization, whether it's the what they call creating the green cover or single-use plastics, and make use of that. Because what gets measured gets done. I believe in that. Measurement is very, very important. And I am very happy that our consortium partner for policy management, the Council of Energy, Environment and Water, and Perspective Climate Group, and we have successfully conducted, as I mentioned, 3 programs in New Delhi, Northern Region, Kolkata, Eastern Region, Bengaluru, Southern Region. And today is a landmark occasion. And after this 4 workshops, I think more than 52 organizations have been almost 25% of the total public sector enterprises, large organizations would get covered through these what you call workshops. And I'm sure they will be better equipped today. But I came specifically earlier for workshops that didn't come. Of course, Delhi I attended that. I came specifically because today is the golden moment for this climate movement in the, I call it climate movement in the public sector enterprise. You are going to the ambassadors. You are going to be our champions. Take it forward in your organization. Take it forward to the country. Take it forward to the society. Take it forward internationally. Two important things we are going to do today. The first is we are going to have. I always believe that there is a talk about the micro credential program. There need to be some certification program need to be there. Okay. In India, in fact, today also there are not many programs in the climate change, climate action. So, GAZ, thanks to GAZ, that it was decided that we have the self-paced certification course on the climate change, exclusively for the public sector enterprises to develop the expertise in this particular area. And of course, we are going to launch it today. Weber will explain to you. I'll not talk about that much. We will explain to you afterwards. And this course, I'm sure, will enhance your knowledge of the executives. Take it back. Tell in your org. We'll also be writing to all the chairmen of the various organizations that people need to be encouraged to join, and this is free of charge. And you need to join and definitely get this certification. Second important thing which we are going to launch here today is the online knowledge platform, a web page, specific dedicated web page on the SCOPE website, and which will be disseminating the extensive and innovative work which is being done by the public sector enterprises in the area of sustainability, while promoting the what you call synergy and peer learning. We need to learn from each other. That's very, very important. And to make the best use of it, I'll urge each one of you to make a regular visit to this particular website, stay updated, and whatever is happening in your organization, please post it there also. And definitely you could please need to contribute on this one. While I conclude, I would say that these are few initiatives. Climate action is going to be very, very important subject in scope. I'm thankful to what you call our vice chairman that in the board also he has been guiding us. Basically, that this is a very important subject which is close to my heart also. Scope is always with you in any new area. In any area which our nation requires to become the developed nation, to become the 5 trillion economy, to become the third largest economy, we are always with you. Because wherever skill gaps are there, wherever requirements are there, we are coming forward. And I like to touch about a program which we are going to launch in next 1 or 2 months. Very important period, important time. You know that when we go to the public enterprise selection board, many of you would be going in the coming years or coming months also. There, in fact, one point which always talked about that people are very good technically, but the issue comes about the vision. Issue comes about the visionary approach. Issue comes about the leadership approach. We need to develop the future-ready leaders. We collaborated with the Capacity Building Commission. You know, there is a Capacity Building Commission who have initiated a number of projects. From last 1 year, we are working on that. A program which has been developed with Daksh. Daksh is the development of aspiration, knowledge, succession, and harmony. This is a leadership program. It's about 1 year program we are going to launch. And I mean, best in the class of consultant, I'll not name here, was yet to enter into agreement. Best of the class, management institutes. 3 of them are going to be a panel, and we are going to start in next maybe 2 months period. We are going to start that, and we are going to launch that. So, point is that in any area which we feel is important, we are there at school. Come forward. If any suggestions are there, please give it to us, and we will take it forward. Our special thanks to Goa Shipyard, led by, as we mentioned, the dynamic chairman Rajesh Upadhyay ji. I think he has been the motivating force behind it that we came here to Goa, and all the support has been provided by his people. And my request to you to enjoy also this place fully. Once again, I'll say that we look forward to all of you to joining us and advancing this vision and contributing to our shared goal of cleaner planet. Thank you. Best of luck and Jai.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us an overview and establishing the nexus between the global platforms and what we are doing at Scope, and also stressing on the fact that while measurability of what the public sector is already doing, very important here. So now it is time to move forward to the workshop specific. But before we do that, let us hear from our German counterparts, Dr. Alexander Fischer, about the Indo-German support project and various initiatives under the same. So Dr. Alexander is an economist with over 3 decades of professional experience in advancing sustainable development and climate change, environmental transition, and equity. He is a PhD in economics and has held influential positions, including program director for Sino-German Cooperation on Climate Change at GIZ China, and has also been a policy advisor in the German Ministry of the Environment Department for Climate Change. So over to you, Alexander.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Certainly, Chairman Rajesh. Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Or maybe you have to speak like this. Okay. Yes. Okay. That's good. Thank you for having me. Yes. Why is Germany here? DJ Supti made it already very clear, this multilateral context, and you guys were following the COP29, and I think probably all of us are happy that the mechanism is still working and is going on, and DJ Supti made it very clear what is at stake, and we know Mr. Trump is coming in, and big questions, but today here we are, and we have to think about why we're doing this and why is Germany here. So the first thing I would like to ask is, who of you thinks that we're gonna stick to the 1.5 degree temperature increase? Can I see a hand? Does anyone of you believe? You? You think we can stick to 1.5 degrees? Not a single person? No? You were raising your hand? No. What about 2 degrees? 2? Yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, maybe like 10% of the group. What about 3 degrees? Something between 2 and 3, like this, yeah. above 3 degrees? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that gets scary, right? But then, yeah, it's still there. It's out there. Okay, that's the point, right? It is happening already. We know that. It's nothing new about that, and we don't know yet where we end up as humans, as human beings, whether we end up at 2, 3 degrees, and that's why we're working on this. And DJ Skupti made it very clear that we all have the responsibility. Of course, everybody decides for him or herself. There's no doubt about it, especially as long as we don't have a global functioning carbon market out there. I mean, once we have a price on carbon, it is obvious then all of us gonna move, and the direction is clear. And one day there will be a price, but maybe it takes another 10, 20, 30 years. We don't know yet. Depends also on the temperature increase and on the pressure which is coming. So what is Germany doing here, and why Germany is using German tax money to finance our coffee today, and what we're doing here today? What is the rationale for someone I'm paying my tax in Germany? I could think about myself, but also my neighbors where I live with my family. So why would they care? And DJ Skupti made it very clear that it counts what everybody of us is doing. And then, of course, we could go anywhere in the world, but we want to be here today with you guys to think about what you can do and what is in the scope of what is possible. So giving you a target on net zero and not 2070. I think we like the date 2047 very much, or maybe even earlier. It depends on your circumstances. So think about it, give you a date, work it through, make a strategy, make commercial feasibility studies for the transition of your production on the energy source, get in discussion with your municipalities or with the energy provider you have, and really think it through. And then you may also have to overcome resistance. We heard the word just. There has to be, there are going to be resistance system. There are always going to be winners, and I'm sure all of you want to going to be winners, but there are also going to be losers on the transition. So you have to think about it. So, and Germany is interested that this is not only happen in Germany, where we also finance a lot of this transition, but we really want this to happen also here in Goa, in this beautiful place. And I'm here with a family. I'm here with my boy and my wife, so they're very happy to be here and at the beach. What a wonderful place. So we want this to happen here, and we want to finances and work forward. What is going on in Germany in this? And let's take the steel sector. So we just, our Minister of Economics just was here a couple of weeks ago. And I think maybe some of you were there, or was it only me? Anyway, so I think some of you met him, but Mr. Supti met him already 2 years back. And he gave strong speeches why he's interested and why he spent not his time with his family in Germany, but be here in India and talk to the folks at the Terry School for Advanced Studies, talk to the government officials, and he mentioned who he all met and engaged with, and try to bring also people to Germany. We know that the Chancellor and your Honorable Prime Minister met, and they increased the numbers of experts to get the permission to work in Germany more easier. I think it's still low numbers, but they increase it from 20 to 90,000. So there's an exchange going to happen where Germany wants to provide knowledge, technology, experts, capacity building, and would love to have you guys come to Germany with your counterparts, talk to them. Can we do joint ventures? Can we establish something together? I know it's a far stretch, and I'm not saying that we have money for all this, but you have to develop it, and you have to have your rationale in your daily work. But if you don't have the vision, if you don't have this target, let's say 2047, if it's there, then you have to act, and then things will come apart. And there are ways to find also to work more closely together. And DJ Supti mentioned it. We're discussing how to work together more and more in depth with you guys and the different sectors, and yeah, doing more on this. So what is the idea? We want, of course, growth. Everybody wants growth. I also want a better car and a nicer car. So this is there's no secret about it. But what we want to help you, or what Germany is also trying, is to do it with less natural resources, but with more renewable resources. It sounds trivial, but it is not trivial, of course, in the making. Moving from, also in Germany, from 80% natural resources, fossil fuels, and coal, and so on, to now we are at 30 something percent in our electricity production, and has to go down to 18 in the next years, and then it probably will hurt. And but that's what we do, and of course we are generally, on average, more richer. But there's also a certain point where it really hurts. We know the German economy is not doing well. The energy prices are too high. So this now all will give a push in the direction to be more efficient, to reduce the energy prices. We go all through it, and I think you guys can learn from it. And I think we're going to have a study tour in May next year, which we would like to do together with you guys, and also bring folks from you over and show how this is going, and have discussions how we even can more work in depth. So what we do as GIZ in this regard, bringing you together, bringing experts together, thinking where we can convince people like Philip Behrens, and thank you very much to meet him in the COP. This was a good event. I also get a lot of positive feedback in the German system from your meeting, because the German folks, they're looking for champions, as you mentioned, who want to transition and then channel the money in that direction. A lot of the money in the whole global system cannot find those champions, so it goes somewhere. But if they're champions, it goes to the champions. So as simple as it. It sounds also trivial, but that's how it is. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say. I'm very glad to be here and looking forward to the discussion today and to support. And thanks to the team for organizing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
So thank you so much, Alex. And thank you foremost for actually giving us an overview what German support means for us and for India, for us at the micro level, and also encouraging us that we need to have our own targets in place and why these kind of workshops are very important. And I hope the message is very clear. Unless we have the inputs from you, we will not be able to take this forward. So please, please cooperate. Now let us hear the industry perspective on the subject, and who better than the CMD Goa Shipyard Limited himself for letting us know what the organization, what the public sector is doing, and what more should we do. So Mr. Upadhyay has over 3 decades of experience and has held various key appointments in the functional and operational areas of the organization while making significant contributions in nearly all verticals of the organization. Sir has been at the forefront in increasing GSL's contribution and global outreach and making inroads into untapped global defense market while also bringing new technologies to the company through transfer of technologies and collaborations with reputed and established international and national organizations. With such a diverse experience with us, it would really be unfair if we don't hear your words of wisdom, sir. So we invite you to guide us and encourage us. Over to you, sir. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please.
Distinguished guest, Sri Atul Sokti ji, Director General Scope, very wonderful human being as well as a real leader of the industry. Not only as a BHEL, he brought it from not a very good position to a very demanding position after occupying the highest chair in BHEL, but also bringing us together on this platform, as he said in his speech, that the climate change is a very, very close to his heart. And as a DG Scope, he has done extremely very well initiatives to bring GIZ and Scope together and bringing us this fourth workshop in Goa of Western region. Dr. Alexander Fischer, Director Indo-German Climate Project GIZ India, as we just heard why Germany is here, what they are looking from us, and why this topic is so important, and why this workshop is so important for us, the deliberation which we will have today and tomorrow. Sri Prabal Vikram Singh, Country Director, OPM India and Bangladesh. Sri Soumik Vishwas, lead consortium. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, good morning to you all. It is an absolute pleasure for me to welcome you all to Goa, a destination known for its natural beauty and cultural richness. I am delighted that the scope has extended its presence here during this wonderful season. November end, December and January is the peak season in Goa. So I am sure in addition to this workshop, you will enjoy the beauty of Goa and you will really go back with not only a very good memories on the climate change workshop, but also of Goa. Let me begin by extending my heartfelt compliments to Team Scope, who has put in their best possible efforts to make this fourth edition of this workshop. As DG Scope said, they had in the northern area, that is Delhi, in Kolkata, and Bengaluru, and this is the fourth one, in western region, that too in Goa. The focus on this climate co-benefit methodologies is not only timely but crucial as we navigate the complexities of sustainable development while addressing the existential threat of climate change. We are actually aware that climate change is no longer a distant concern. It's a reality that, threatens biodiversity, aggravates social and economic inequalities, and disproportionately impacts vulnerable communities. This urgency demands a collective and strategic approach to mitigation and adaptation, particularly from Indian public sector enterprises, which play a critical role in our nation's growth story. And I'm delighted to hear that almost 22 organizations are participating today in this workshop, and I'm sure they will become the brand ambassador of this workshop. When they go back to their respective organizations, they will carry this message of change. It is true that many PSCs face inherent challenges due to the operational nature of their industries, such as reliance on fossil fuels for energy security. However, these very enterprises are demonstrating remarkable resolve by adopting innovative technologies, integrating renewable energy solutions, and embracing sustainable practices. Efforts such as afforestation, water conservation, and improved waste management not only mitigate emissions but also generate climate co-benefits, unintended advantages that often go unrecognized. These co-benefits, when measured and accounted for, can enhance the credibility of PSC's contribution to India's climate commitments and create tangible value through mechanisms like carbon credits. At Goa Shipyard Limited, we have witnessed firsthand how industry-specific challenges can be turned into opportunities for sustainable growth. As a shipbuilding and defense enterprises, our operations demands energy-intensive processes and extensive use of materials. Recognizing this, we have initiated various measures that exemplify the practical applications of climate co-benefit methodologies. In Ministry of Defense, Government of India has decided, further directed all PSUs under their administrative control that by March 2025, at least 50% of their energy's requirement must be met through renewable energies. And NTPC's subsidiary has been assigned this task, wherein they are in dialogue with all the DPSUs. DPSUs means Defense Public Sector Undertakings, wherein by March 2025, we will be having 50% either through solar or some other mechanism. These are the clear-cut directives. So from Government of India, a lot of initiative has been already in hands. For instances, we have integrated energy efficient technologies into our production lines, significantly reducing the carbon footprint. And we are, as I said just now, we are adopting a lot of renewable source of energies by which 50% of our requirement will be met through these sources. Through our efforts in CSR, we are also aligned with the broader climate co-benefits framework. These not only offset the emissions but also contribute to biodiversity conservation, soil stability, and enhanced community engagement. These are tangible examples of how sustainability initiatives generate value beyond their primary intent. We at Goa Shipyard has tied up with Biodiversity Board at Goa and with the local community with the help of Tata Institute of Social Studies, have worked out many projects under CSR which have been contributing, whether it's a water conservation or whether it's the products which can be uh, help to reduce the carbon footprints. So actively with government of Goa, with the Biodiversity Board and with Goa Shipyard, we have been actively pursuing these programs. When I come to PSC's efforts in climate change should be led by example which demands contribution of all stakeholders. However, the availability of structured frameworks to evaluate and amplify the impact of such initiative remains a significant gap. This is where platform like today's workshop becomes very critical. This is where the need for a robust climate action assessment framework becomes evident. Such frameworks can empower PSCs to systematically evaluate their initiatives, measure their impacts, and align with national and international sustainability goals. Unfortunately, the availability of such tools, along with the capacity building required to leverage them effectively, remains limited. I happened to attend a 112th session of International Labour Organization held at Geneva in June 2024, where ILO also has emphasized the critical importance of addressing climate change and promoting a sustainable environment. The rapidly evolving nature of work, driven by technologies, advancements, shifting economic dynamics, and geopolitical changes, highlights the urgent need for meaningful social dialogue and collaborative, constructive efforts to mitigate the impact of climate change on all forms. This ongoing instability poses a significant threat to the planet's survival, underscoring the necessity of a fundamental shift in direction. We must challenge business models that prioritize profits over the well being of people and the planet. In this context, I speak well of scope for addressing these critical gaps and also appreciate GIZ team for supporting and institutionalizing the climate co-benefit methodologies by organizing regional workshops and engaging executives across various levels. Scope is ensuring that the benefits of this initiative reach far and wide. The agenda for today's workshop is both comprehensive and forward looking, with sessions on implementation, measurability, and assessment framework led by an eminent panel of experts from renowned national and international institutions. I encourage all participants to actively engage, absorb insights, and leverage this opportunity to the fullest. Scope efforts to create a dedicated web page on climate change are equally commendable. This platform will not only highlight PSE's sustainability initiative but also serve as a repository for international best practices, peer learning, and collaborations. Moreover, the launch of an online course which DG has spoken in his inaugural speech on this online courses on climate action marks another significant step. This initiative will enhance understanding among PSC's professionals, equipping them with the knowledge to contribute effectively to their organizations' climate strategies and the larger national agenda. I urge all participants to take advantage of this course and encourage their peers to do the same. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Scope and its team for inviting me today for such a wonderful gathering. Let us embrace a renewed commitment to innovate, act, and collaborate. Together, we can position Indian PSCs as a global leaders in climate action, driving transformative change and ensuring a sustainable future for generations to come. While we engage in these critical deliberations, I also hope you find time to enjoy the serene and vibrant atmosphere of Goa, a reminder of why our collective efforts to protect our planet matter so much. Wishing you all a productive and enriching workshop. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. It is always very, very enlightening to hear from you, and some new information always comes to light. And the fact that 50% target has already been given, I think we have more work cut out for us. So, yes, please help us in this. Now, and sir, we are also very thankful for you to you for actually telling us that we are already doing climate co-benefit. PSCs knowingly or unknowingly are already engaging into it, and measurability of the same is so important now. Going ahead and moving ahead, now we'll be hearing about the industry perspective and the consultant, the international perspective from Mr. Prabal Vikram Singh, Country Director, Oxford Policy Management Group, India and Bangladesh. A PhD in public systems from IIM Ahmedabad, Mr. Prabal has worked with central and state government ministries, including the Government of India's Department of Information Technology and the Government of Madhya Pradesh Department of Public Health and Welfare, and led on project implementation, knowledge management, and capacity building for India's national e-governance program. And Mr. Prabal, we look forward to hearing from you that while we continue to do all this, where does climate co-benefit fit? So over to you.
Thank you, Samriddhi. And thanks for having me here. Eminent panel members, Brijesh ji, Sopti ji, Alex, uh, Shomik, whom I know for a long time. Thanks for having me here. And I'd like to thank Scope GIZ for organizing this event. And thanks, Sopti ji and Brijesh ji, for picking up this venue. Coming from Delhi, where the AQI is 400 plus, Goa is a it's like a pleasant welcome. Alex is here with his family. They were enjoying sitting outside in the morning. I don't think so. You can do that in Delhi. You can't see the blue sky at least for 3 months, November, December, January. So thanks for choosing this venue. I would like to thank GIZ for having Oxford Policy Management on the table. Oxford Policy Management is a development consulting firm headquartered in Oxford. We've been in India for more than 20 years, working in various areas of climate change, health, education, skills, poverty, and uh, uh, is very intuitive. You may not like even notice what you doing, like the benefits that you are deriving by your actions. And in today's workshop, I believe we'll be talking of single use plastic and urban forestry, Nagar Van Yojana, and what small changes, how our small actions can contribute to large changes. And PSE being like the backbone of Indian economy, right from the independence till today, PSEs are our backbone. And a small step taken by you in your work life, in your institutions, I think आप एक बहुत बड़ा बदलाव ला सकते हैं. Alex mentioned about picking up champions. You all are champions. People from 22 organizations are here. ये आप छोटी छोटी ये 22 organizations से और आगे जाके बहुत बड़ा बदलाव हो सकता है और होगा ये. आप यहाँ से जो सीख के जाएंगे फ्रॉम दिस वर्कशॉप ऑन सिंगल यूज plastics and urban forestry, my team from CEW OPM is here and they'll be talking lot about it. So I wish you all success. Enjoy, interact, ask questions. जो भी हमारे स्पीकर्स हैं हमसे सवाल पूछें, जो भी डाउट्स हैं आप कैसे उसको अपनी कार्यशैली में अपने अपने वर्क में आप उसको कैसे ला सकते हैं और कैसे आप एक चेंज एजेंट बन सकते हैं, एक चैंपियन बन सकते हैं. I wish you all the best. Enjoy the workshop. Enjoy Goa. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prabal. So now is the time to have a look at two initiatives of SCOPE and GIZ, starting with the fact that SCOPE and GIZ are committed to strengthening the efforts of PSCs towards climate action. And for this, we have designed initiatives to empower the PSCs with necessary tools to learn about climate change and also enable them to showcase their achievements to their peers and the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, SCOPE and GIZ presents to you the first ever certification advanced course on climate change and climate action in India, designed exclusively for the public sector executives. While the launch has been very short, trust me, the course is not. It's going to take some hours of yours, but the hours are going to be worth it. And the online interactive course is being provided without any course fee and has been certified not only by SCOPE and GIZ Germany, but also by the International Climate Initiative of the German government known as ICI. So for providing the details on the course, I invite Mr. Vaibhav Rathi, the Deputy Team Lead into German Support Project for Climate Action in India, GIZ, to enlighten us further on this.
Thank you, Samriddhi, and respected dignitaries on the dais. My name is Vaibhav Rathi. I work with Alex in GIZ as a deputy team lead for this project. And today I've been given the responsibility of telling you how big this course is and what this course looks like. A snapshot of it, at least, to start with, if we can have the presentation. So this course basically was designed with keeping this course was designed specifically keeping public sector enterprises in mind. And the second thing, next, the second thing we kept in mind was it has to be online. So basically, this is a 12.5 hour self-paced course. There are 5 modules to it. And in today's presentation, I'm going to tell you what the 5 modules have, like the course structure, and give you a little bit of snapshot of what each module has. It will not have, I will not show you everything that every module has, but just some snapshot, which we feel that would be very interesting for the PSCs to listen today. As I said, this is for public sector enterprises. You need to invest approximately 8 weeks, but don't worry, it's a self-paced, massive online open course. So you can do it in your own time and at your own pace. Ultimately, there will be a certificate generated, and it is developed by GIZ in guidance with SCOPE under this particular project. And the course provider is basically International Climate Initiative. I'll just start with the course overview. As I said, there are 5 modules. Module number 1 is the introduction, where basically you will be introduced about the training objectives, how does training works, and some interactive, discussions to start with. So the objectives of this training are 3. First, to build the capacities on issues related to climate change, particularly climate policy, finance, and carbon pricing. The second objective is the mitigation strategy, the net zero goals that you have set yourself, either 2047 or earlier or a bit later. What is the mitigation strategies that PSCs can adopt to improve their understanding, willingness, and capacities on climate change? The third one is contribute in India's NDC target achievement. Whenever India has committed to the world that this is where we are going to achieve our net zero, it is basically they look back to India, and the first cohort they look at is the PSCs. So how we can contribute, PSCs can contribute in enhancing the capacities of PSCs and further achieving India's NDC targets. So these are the 3 objectives. Then we come to module 2, where it is basically climate change 101, the foundations of climate change and policy. There are 3 chapters, and every module will have a final quiz. And ultimately, to pass this course, you need to have at least 60% of the questions answered correctly. Otherwise, the course will not generate a certificate, but you can retake it again. So that's how it is self-paced, and kind of you can do it as many times as you want. Scientific perspective, economic perspective, and political perspective in this particular. And I'm going to give you a snapshot. This is basically derived right from the course. So it will give you basics about the GHG potentials, how it is related to our own anthropogenic activities. Anthropogenic basically means human-related induced climate change. So this is the basic science of climate change. Also, it will talk about the political and situations and the history of basically politics of climate change, how the IPCC was formed in 1988, then the UNFCCC came into picture. Then we signed the Paris Agreement in 2015, and so on and on. So you will get to know about the history as well of the global negotiations on climate change. The module 3 is about action. Then we come to the specifics, the nuts and bolts, which is basically involving public and private corporates. Here again, you have 2 chapters, and chapter 2 have further 2, kind of 5 chapters, where you will talk. It will talk about how to measure, how to set targets, action plan, financing climate action, monitoring and disclosing and reporting structures that you can adopt. Again, a snapshot. Why engage in climate action? What are the company's interest? How can we go ahead in the regulations? How can we track and benchmark progress on our climate action? Also, what is the corporate carbon strategy framework that you can adopt? What are the strategic objectives in a corporate carbon strategy that you can have? Then further drill down to what are the activities. So it's basically like a log frame of carbon corporate strategy that you can adopt. How do you accelerate? So what are the steps you can take? First, as Sopti sir said, you measure, then you set targets, then you prepare an action plan, then you find where the money, like who will pay for it, and then ultimately you monitor, report, and disclose. Module 4 will be setting up finance and mitigation projects. How do you find finance? How you set up financing projects within the endeavors that you'll take. So this will again have 3 chapters. One is about dedicated to carbon markets, which is talk of the town. India has its own carbon market. Recently in COP29, the global carbon markets and the carbon mechanisms were agreed upon. So it is coming up. Of course, as Alex said, the pricing is not something that it is very attractive, but nevertheless, it makes good sense for you to know about what carbon markets are, and also what are the steps and what makes a good carbon offset project. So this is again a very important module for all the PSCs to go forward to know and understand if you want to set up a carbon market projects within the PSCs, how to at least go about it. Then it talks again the basics of the what are the different types of carbon markets, and what are the obliged carbon markets, what are the voluntary carbon markets, and then how do you basically set up mitigation projects, mitigation project development steps. What are the steps basically you do to set up a carbon markets project within your own companies, and what makes a good carbon offset project. So it also will tell you about what is basically a most low-hanging fruit within your own activities in PSCs. You can basically convert it into a carbon offset or carbon offset project. The last module is about where to find money, sources and instruments of climate finance. It again has 4 chapters. As Samriddhi said, there's a lot of stuff. There is a lot to go through. That's why we have given it 8 weeks and we have made it self-paced. So this is the last module where you will learn about introduction and key concepts about climate finance, global landscape of climate finance, what are the basically sources available for climate finance, and what are the instruments available for climate finance. So this is in a snapshot, kind of the 5 modules and some snapshot of each module that you will learn in this particular course. There will be climate finance architecture, what is a development finance, what is a health finance and education finance, all the nitty-gritties of climate finance will be there. And what are the different instruments, green bonds, green loans, blended finance, and so on and on. There will be a lot of longer list in this course that you're going to learn about. So ultimately, this whole course is designed to give you a kickstart into the activities that you're doing and learn and gain more insights so that you become more insightful and more knowledgeable, at least what is out there, and you can link your work with the learnings that this particular course module provides. One important thing to mention is this course can actually become a precursor of the field trip that we are planning next year to Germany and maybe one more country, for you guys to see in action the climate low carbon technologies which are out there, but also learn from German universities which are working on climate action and climate finance. So we are planning this May next year. So it will be good to take up this course from now when it is launched until May, to kind of adapt yourself and also make yourself understood of what is lying out there. So it will be a good precursor for you to take up this course, and we encourage all the PSCs here and also across the country to take up this course. So ultimately, it is an interactive course. It is a self-paced learning course, and self-paced learning course, and it will be available on GIZ's learning platform called Atingi. It will be available free of cost. You just have to log in and then start the course at your own pace. I just want to end and this is some of the examples of interactivity. There will be actual moderators there will be videos, there will be quizzes, and there will be a lot more. But as I said, 60% of the questions have to be answered correctly for you to basically get the certificate generated. So we have also kept some, kind of benchmarks for everyone to do the course more diligently, so that you kind of get benefited from the certificate at the end. I just want to end on a personal as well as a contextual note. We are sitting in Goa, and everybody talked about how Goa is the pearl of the Orient and it is so beautiful. But I want to draw a parallel to the islands of Tuvalu and Fiji, which are the most affected by climate change. They are going down into the sea, and this is actually happening. Shomik has been there actually in person, and he has seen that through his own eyes. Goa is also attached by several islands. In Vasco, in Chikali, there are small, small islands. And if it can happen to Tuvalu or Fiji, it can happen here. And on a personal note, a colleague's mother is suffering from pneumonia, and someone was talking about the high AQI levels in Delhi. 2 weeks back, the doctor said it was actually aggravated by the air pollution in Delhi. Why I'm trying to tell you is this, that climate change and pollution has hit home, and it has hit home hard. We don't know when it is going to hit home to us. The PSCs that you represent are home to you. And in the future, we don't know where it is going to hit home. So it is really important for us, and thanks to all the speakers here, to again and again re-emphasize that we are in the era of climate change, and we really need to buckle ourselves up and make ourselves knowledgeable that we can deal with what is coming. And we don't know where it is coming. That's the whole challenge, when it's going to hit home. But we need to be prepared. So on that note, I'm going to end, and thank you very much for listening. Thanks.
Thanks, Weber. While it is true that a colleague of ours, she was supposed to come to Goa, but she couldn't join us because of her mother who was hospitalized due to pollution. But nevertheless, action is being done now. Climate change, we understand, so we need to take serious action. And this course is a step towards that. And the best part about this is that please understand this is not for engineers, this is not for climate change professionals. It is for everyone who is living and breathing today. So please, whether you're from finance, PR, sales, marketing, doesn't matter. Because climate change, GHG, all these terms you need to know if you have to work tomorrow. So please take the course. And on a brighter note, as Vaibhav mentioned, I'll reiterate that this will be a qualifying round if you're supposed to be part of our planned German exchange program. So I hope that encourages you further. And right from DG and Upadhyay sir to the lowest level in the organization is supposed to take this course. Otherwise, you don't go. It's very simple. So yeah, so I take the liberty of this position to do that. So now is the time to unveil a platform of experiences. So let us put our hands together for the first of its kind online knowledge platform dedicated to climate change, our very own Scope online web page dedicated to climate change and climate action. So this is a web page that is hosted by Scope on our website, scopeonline.in. But this will be made live in another 15, 20 minutes. But this will only remain active if you let it remain active. So be a part of it, keep contributing to it, because this is not only textbook knowledge, it is practical knowledge as to what each one of us are doing in the public sector and individually, so that we all learn from each other. So with this, we have two great initiatives of Scope, and we invite your inputs in form of write-ups and contributions so that we can continue learning from each other. So coming back to the present, it is time to understand the key objective of the workshop and how it shall contribute to advancing our collective climate action efforts. And for this, I would like to invite Mr. Shomik Biswas, Team Lead Consortium, OPM, Council on Energy, Environment and Water, and Perspective Climate Group to share the program perspective. Mr. Biswas is an expert in the field of climate change and sustainable development with an experience of nearly 2 decades and has been focusing much of his career managing numerous climate change projects and creating low carbon strategies. To reiterate, these workshops and this draft assessment framework that you'll be studying in the second half would not have been possible without his guidance and his support. So over to you, Shomik, once again to enlighten us.
Thank you, Samruddhi. Yeah. Mike.
Thanks, Samruddhi. Thank you, delegates on the dais, participants. The problem of going last in a presentation is that either everybody has said everything already, and I don't need to reiterate, or there are certain gaps that were there in the presentation which I don't want to highlight here now. Either way, I am in a soup. But what we are going to do over the next more or less 1.5 days is to go through the methodology of quantifying co-benefits from some certain actions that you are already doing in your PACs. To do that, just to give a little bit of basic before we go into the presentation itself. We are just back from the COP, which was supposed to be a finance COP. And some of you might be knowing that it did not generate the result that parties like India wanted it to generate. We asked for funding to the tune of $1.3 trillion per year, which got pushed back, and we settled on $300 billion per year to be achieved by 2035. Now, when you hear of these terms, to be achieved by 2035, this is what in climate change jargon we say is constructive ambiguity. This moves the process forward without really committing to how much money we are going to get next year. So we had a initial target of $100 billion per year to be met by 2020, which got pushed back to 2025. There is a global stock take that happens during the COP, where the amount of money that has flown to the global markets are estimated. And it is estimated by 2022 that $100 billion was reached, though there are lots of disputes on that as well. Now, why I am essentially talking about this? Because the amount of finance that Vaibhav also mentioned in the presentation that they are going to have in the course, the source of finance is multiple. And one of the key sources of climate finance also comes from carbon markets. Now, participating in the carbon markets is not a piece of cake. It's not just that you have a project and you go to a seller or a buyer and then you say that I have some carbon credits to my credit which I want to sell off. There is an entire process related to it. And to get into that process, a lot of basic information needs to be accumulated. One of the areas where the carbon market has been flourishing in recent years in the voluntary market. So we have also mentioned in passing a compliance market and the voluntary market. The compliance market are markets which are controlled under the UNFCCC mechanisms. Article 6.2, Article 6.4, you would be hearing these terms more and more over the years when you go forward. Other than that, we also have our NDC commitments to meet. Now, when we are talking about NDC commitments, all our NDC commitments are supposed to be revised by the February of 2025. So whatever targets we have now are supposed to be enhanced. Alex started off asking where we are right now, whether we are at 1.5, 2, 3.5 or somewhere. I think the latest data by 2022 suggested that we are somewhere between 2.5 to 3, maybe 2.4 to 3, which is much better than what we were a decade ago, which was above 4 degrees centigrade. And our present NDCs and long-term energy strategies and long-term goals, those would probably bring us down to about 2.2 degrees, which is still higher than the Paris Agreement target of 2 degrees and way above the 1.5 degree that the Paris Agreement wanted us to achieve. So all of these combined means that our NDC targets would get more and more stringent. We have already heard that we have got a 50% renewable energy target for the DPSUs. The PACs have already been given a 2047 net zero emission target, which compared to Indian net zero emission target, which is in 2070, brings it back by 23 years. All of this achievement will not be happening only by addressing your process efficiencies or only by investing in renewables. So that is where the co-benefit part of the actions that you are taking becomes so much important. The key element being accounting for those actions. So I will start with a brief introduction to the team that we have. So I am the team leader identified here. I'm Shomik Biswas. I have been working in this field for more than 2 decades. I'm presently working as the National Climate Finance Regional Climate Finance Advisor for the Commonwealth in the Asia Pacific. Fiji, Tuvalu, so those are the places that I have visited, and Tuvalu is actually going under, and which I have seen with my own eyes. But you don't need to go to Tuvalu to know that. You can just travel to Orissa, and where Satpara, there's a village called Satpara, which is going down continuously, and by now most of the population has moved out from there. So it's happening here and now. So I am Shomik Biswas. We have a mitigation expert sitting in Germany who assists us with this project in Axel Michael. And we have our circular economy expert, Nitin Basi, sitting with us here, who will be taking you through the SUP part of the activities, and our forestry expert, Dr. Ishita Mukherjee-Bilske. We are also being supported by a pool of staff who does the actual running about while we are the face of the project. The overall objective of the project is to identify and measure contributions of policy and investments in the circular economy, resource efficiency, and forestry biodiversity sectors. Why did we choose these two sectors on forestry and biodiversity and economy and resource efficiency is through collaboration with the MOEFCC, as well as something that we talk about working in the intersection point of the 3 Rio conventions. When Boiva was showing a timeline of how the climate change UNFCCC was established in 1992, what was not mentioned was that UNFCCC was not the only convention that came in 1992. It was followed by 2 sister conventions on biodiversity and combating desertification. So these 3 UN conventions together are our pathways to achieving our emission targets and mitigation targets in both climate change, biodiversity, as well as land degradation. So biodiversity sits smack in the middle of all 3. And forestry is the one sector which contributes to all the 3 Rio conventions together. Similarly, economies and resource efficiency has a huge contribution towards land degradation, not only terrestrial in this case, but also marine ecosystem and prevention of degradation in the coastal belts as well. So these 2 sectors become important for addressing all the 3 Rio conventions. So what exactly are climate co-benefits? Now, benefits we can all understand, right? We do a project, we have a tangible return from that particular project. So that's a cause and then effect. So that's the benefit of a project. The co-benefit is when climate change is not the main actionable, verifiable benefit that you are seeking for a particular project. And those are determined as co-benefits. So for forestry projects, for example, you can have a forestry project for a different purpose, for green belt development, for meeting compliance requirements from the pollution control board. So you are not actually targeting climate change by that particular initiative that you are taking under forestry. Nevertheless, the forest will contribute to greenhouse gas mitigation, and that needs to be accounted for. Now, why we need to account for this again? As I said, our NDC targets are going to get more and more stringent. And until and unless we measure whatever benefits we are getting from all of our activities, will be sure not to meet those NDC targets. What we have seen is that most sectors lack a methodology to account for this climate co-benefits because it is precisely because it is a co-benefit. It is set in the fringes. So over the period of these 2 days, we are going to interact with you as much as possible, and we expect you to interact with us as much as possible to understand and clarify your understanding of the co-benefits of these two particular processes of SUP and forestry, as well as the draft assessment framework that we have developed over the last almost a year now, with consultation with your colleagues from northern, eastern, and as well as southern region, to come to a certain calculation methodology for the SUP ban as well as the forestry part of it. And as I say in all the workshops, either you are going to volunteer or we are going to make you volunteer. So either way, there is no sitting quietly through the day. How would this support the PACs? It would add value through climate impact measurements. A lot of these activities which are done anyway is not being monitored and reported and is hence not contributing to the PAC's target of 2047 goals. Some of you are, of course, part of the stock exchange, and you will have to do this BRSR submissions to the stock market, where this comes in very handy. And then impact figures can support in carbon disclosures, help you tap the potential carbon markets that are there, and generate additional revenues from some sources. As I said, we are focusing on two aspects. One is on the single-use plastic ban, and another is on the forestry part of it. Within the forestry, our pilot scheme is on the urban forestry scheme called Nagar Van Yojana, but the methodology that we have developed as of now is agnostic to the scheme, and any of the PACs can use that, whoever has a plantation activity. Of course, depending on the data available to you. And if that data is not available to you, the methodology identifies what data needs to be identified, needs to be monitored. And over a period of time, that monitoring system would probably need to be established. You don't need to do it right now. You can probably start with default factors and default monitoring methodologies. Later on, as the system matures more and the requirements from the government become stricter and stricter, we'll have to move towards more robust monitoring. The methodological approach that we have taken is to have a development, testing, embedding, followed by capacity building and handover. So part of this workshop, you will be you have already been distributed a training need assessment questionnaire. Maybe some of you have seen it, but if you have not seen it, that's not a problem. We are carrying hard copies of that. We will be asking you to fill that up tomorrow, so that we can also develop. We can also have a more or less brief understanding of where your interests and knowledge lie at this present moment, so that we can develop the training course in course of time. So our thinking on the delivery was that the methodologies will be delivered on specific projects in specific geographies, then piloted cross-geography, cross-program. For the geography, we were suggested to take over Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu by the MoEFCC. and we are going to pilot the methodologies there. But again, the methodology itself are geography agnostic, so there is no issue on using that methodology for in Goa or in West Bengal or in Assam or anywhere else. It has to be a highly participatory approach because this methodology is being developed for you. Hence, you will have to be comfortable with the methodology, and you will have to tell us if you are not comfortable with certain aspects of the methodology, so that we can have a course correction on that one as well. So over the period of over the next 2 days, feel free to tell us that if you cannot monitor certain things or if you have certain problems on monitoring anything. We will also be applying a concept of materiality to the purported climate benefits, because not all the benefits that might accrue from a project would be material enough to calculate or be attributable to particular project activity without bias to any other project activities that you are doing. I think we'll skip this. And this is where you become important, because you are one of the most important stakeholders that we have as scope and as a culmination of the private sectors that are there. You have one of the most highest targets among all the industry champions that are there, and you will be probably setting up the tone on where India is going to go in achieving their NDC targets over the next few years. So I will stop here. We won't be keeping you too much for tea. But after tea, when we come back here, we'll straight jump into the forestry work stream, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Shomik, for giving us an overview as to what 1.5 days look like and what all we are going to do. So, as we approach the end of the inaugural session, we would like to express our gratitude to the eminent panelists for their time, guidance, which has certainly been very enlightening and opened new horizons and perspectives to explore. We're also very thankful to all the participants present here today and their nominating organizations, without whose support this workshop would not have been possible, and all the earlier workshops also. Last but not the least, our heartfelt gratitude to Team Scope and GIZ team for working tirelessly and dedicatedly with us to bring the various endeavors to light. Thank you all once again, and I request the dignitaries and participants to kindly join us for high tea, after which we'll be assembling back in this hall for a group photograph, and then we'll be continuing with our technical sessions. So high tea is served outside, so please, we end this inaugural session, and thank you very much all of you once again.